efficient. It's a bicycle.
This actually gets about 30 to 35 miles per pizza.
Next Donahue, this computer genius lives on his bicycle.
Have you ever had any trouble with Hell's Angels?
I would like to know how many moving violations you've acquired this year.
How do you go on dates and stuff, you know what I'm saying?
A computer whiz who lives on his high-tech bike. Next Donahue.
Donahue, Friday morning at 9, only on Channel 16.
Father Beauchamp for our local United Way.
Recent controversy at United Way of America has caused some confusion for local donors. Let me set the record straight. Only 1 penny of the donated dollar goes to the National Trade Association. Services received in return for that 1 penny help our local United Way to operate more efficiently. Last year, our United Way helped 125,000 local people in need. Please keep believing in our local United Way. It's still the best way to help the most people who need you.
In Florida, the manatee is an endangered species. Researchers at the University of Florida have been studying what effects divers and boaters are having on its survival.
That's right. As Linda Kupitz tells us, they found that many visitors just don't know how to behave in a manatee habitat.
Every diver who comes to the natural springs of Crystal River should realize they're entering a special habitat, the manatee's home. The main purpose of the trip is to swim with the manatees, but in some cases, the visitors get much more than they bargained for.
It's simply an educational program to where we take you in the classroom for about an hour and a half and teach you everything you ever wanted to know about a manatee, and then take you into the water and teach you how to get in the water with a manatee. And of course, the main goal and objective is not to disturb them. The manatee are where they want to be, and as long as we don't disturb them or bother them, they'll stay right there. And that's the way it should be.
It's hard to get the information out to people who are coming from all over the country on how to act to the manatees where it won't harm them. People do tend to touch them before the manatees touch them first, and they tend to grab onto their tails. They tend to chase them and encircle them, try to ride them. And there's a lot of evidence that bothers a lot of the animals.
Studies also show that some manatees seek out human contact and actually like to be petted. But Cheryl Buckingham says she personally doesn't touch them anymore. For NBC News, I'm Linda Kubitz reporting.
And it really is a big issue because each year thousands of people come to Florida's southwest coast to see the manatees. I'd love to get a chance to.
How can something so ugly be so attractive?
So sweet, though.
We'll be back in a moment.
We were sitting watching the evening news together, and when the story came on, it immediately caught our attention. I was fearful that perhaps my mammogram had not told the truth.
More than 750,000 women responded after our series on mammograms, many with stories like Sydney's.
The information on that program saved her life.
I feel like I've been given a second chance, and I'm going to enjoy it to the fullest.
In Touch with America, NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw. This summer, temperatures are on the rise when a student and her teacher realize their emotions can no longer be denied. And young love, first love, leads to feelings that sweep them away from innocence to passion. And a love triangle of a man torn between temptation and desire. Stories of love on NBC Daytime.
In 1988, she was touted as track's next superstar, but then a rare malady struck her down. Radiation treatments for Graves' disease blistered her feet, and amputation was once just 2 days away. Amazingly, only 3 months after resuming training, Gail Devers captured a silver medal at the World Championships last August. Will her comeback continue to Barcelona? Gail Devers, one to watch this summer on NBC.
The quality shows on NBC with Reasonable Doubts. The series the critics applaud and viewers adore.
You and I were talking about us.
And coming soon, more of what you've been tuning in for. More romance, more action, more Mark and Marley.
You don't have to stay unless you still miss me.
And more than a few surprises.
I do.
Reasonable Doubts, undeniably, unmistakably better than ever.
I want to keep you forever.
No doubt about it. The quality shows on NBC.
is Friday, July 24th, and here's a look at the nation's weather.
It looks like there are going to be showers and thunderstorms across the Ohio River Valley, the Mid-Atlantic, and the Southeast today. Some storms may cause flash flooding in the Mid-Atlantic region. Meanwhile, cooler and drier air slips into the northern plains, the Mississippi Valley, and the Great Lakes. And fair and mild conditions are going to be moving back into the Pacific Northwest. California continues to see fair and dry weather.
Thanks to some high-tech effects, Pepsi's new commercial is like having a dream with caffeine. The international ad called Dreams is being hailed as one of the most elaborate commercials in advertising history. It's shot like a music video to the sounds of the Jackson song, Who Is It? The ad is the largest sponsorship deal ever between an entertainer and a major corporation. But you will have to go abroad to see it. Dreams will not be aired in the U.S.
Don't know why that happens. Singer Bruce Springsteen has returned to the United States, and he's ready to rock his native New Jersey for the next couple of weeks. Thursday night, the Boss began his first American tour since 1988, and all 11 of his shows at this arena were sold out after just 2.5 hours. The 42-year-old rocker is scheduled to perform in 5 other cities over the next 5 weeks. Springsteen's biggest hit was Born in the USA, sold 10 million copies.
That was the biggest one, but a lot of others. I could have heard more of that. This is NBC Nightside, a production of NBC News Channel, Charlotte, North Carolina.
Ag Day, brought to you by Mr. Travel, the exclusive host for this year's Ag Day visit to the Holy Land. By Progressive Farmer, read and trusted by Southern farmers for generations. By DeKalb Plant Genetics, DeKalb, proud to be a part of the 1992 Soybean Expo. By American Cyanamid, makers of Prowl, Scepter, and Pursuit herbicides and counter-systemic insecticide nematicide, hard-working products for demanding conservation tillage situations. And by mountain-grown Folgers coffee. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
Good morning and welcome to Ag Day. I'm Jim Grulich. Al Pell is on assignment today at the No-Till Days in Milan, Tennessee, and getting ready to leave for Houston, Texas, in this year's Soybean Expo. Well, a herd of cattle reports top our news this morning. Today, the USDA releases its monthly and quarterly cattle on feed reports and its biannual cattle inventory report. Almost all the numbers are expected to be higher than last year's. Traders are expecting the 7-state placements to be 114% of a year ago. The 13-state placements are expected at 103%. For marketings, the 7-state figure is expected to be just under 107% of a year ago, and the 13-state figure at 98% of a year ago. The herd inventory report is expected to show a modest expansion as heifers are diverted into the beef cow herd. Traders are estimating the total cattle number at just under 101% of a year ago. The USDA reports are released this afternoon. The House is trying to raise its fees for cattle grazing on federal lands. Members are approving a plan to raise the fees by a third, from $1.92 per animal per month to $2.56. The fee would continue going up until it reaches $5.36. Private grazing fees range from $8 to $12 per animal per month. However, the higher fees approved by the House are expected to be defeated in the Senate. Computers are helping the USDA report livestock prices more accurately. Prices can now be classed in weighted averages, telling buyers that animals in a certain weight range averaged so many pounds and brought a certain price per pound per hundredweight. 12 states are now using the new weighted average figures. The value of farm real estate is falling to about half its 1981 level. The Ag Department says the average price on January 1st of this year was $685 an acre. However, by the end of this year, the trend is expected to be as much as 2% higher. The Ag Department is licensing new pesticides that are designed to be cheaper and reduce the risk of groundwater contamination. The pesticides were developed by the USDA, and they're the first to be starch-coated. That means they'll stick to the leaves of plants. The starch coating means farmers can save money by reducing the number of applications needed, and the starch should reduce chemical runoff and the risk of contaminating the groundwater. Well, farmers are also getting good news from Mother Nature. After a rough start, the weather now is nearly ideal for crops. Since the Soybean Expo kicks off this weekend in Houston, this morning we're going to profile one soybean producer. But as Tricia Slomer reports, it's going to take more than better weather to cheer this farmer up.
There's a message soybean grower Jim Clindaniel would like to drive home to soybean leaders at the Expo.
Well, we certainly hope as a producer that they will come up with more ideas, more new products, even promote more and more export sales of our soybeans, and we just need newer and better expanded markets to survive.
Clindaniel farms around 250 acres near Bremen, Indiana. He may be a small farmer, but his problems are big.
Well, these were planted May the 7th, no-till. And of course, we didn't get any rain for about a month, and they came up very, very slow, and not very many of them came up, and those that did come up, well, then the frost started in, and this whole area here was all frosted out, and of course I've had to replant, and now we're coming into another little strip that the frost even got the replant beans.
As the soybean season rolls on, Clindaniel explains what it's going to take to turn his crops around.
We're going to have some very, very ideal weather, and ideal weather means warm weather along with continuous rains every week to push this crop along. At my age, I'm about ready to get out of it, but just because you're a big farmer doesn't mean that you don't make big profits either. Sometimes you lose that much more. But all farmers, I work with a lot of them, and I've never seen such poor attitudes or negative attitudes, and because corn and soybeans are below cost of production, and we just can't survive. It's a game of survival.
From Bremen, Indiana, this is Tricia Slomer reporting for Ag Day.
U.S. Ag Secretary Edward Madigan and his counterpart with the European community, Ray McSherry, will meet next week. The topic will be the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade and the U.S.-EC oilseed dispute. Both are part of the tricky international trade talks underway. There is optimism that the talks can be finished soon. Robert Thompson, who is Dean of the College of Agriculture at Purdue University, says the North American Free Trade Agreement and the GATT talks should be successful.
We anticipate that there will be a NAFTA agreement within the next couple of weeks, and that there will be a GATT agreement sometime in the next 6 months that will significantly free up international trade. Not move to totally free trade, but just move in the direction of more liberal trade which imposes greater forces of competition on our farmers and farmers everywhere. And the most efficient, best organized farmers who are using the least cost technologies and producing in the most environmentally sensitive manner possible are going to get the sales.
Thompson was speaking in Denver at a meeting of the National Institute on Cooperative Education. And at the meeting, a variety of experts called cooperatives an important part of the changing world economy. We'll have more on the meeting Monday on Ag Day. Well, next on Ag Day, Al does some frontline reporting from a farming battlefield. It's the no-till revolution. He'll look at the latest in techniques and equipment on the no-till front.
This is Job Tips. Now here's your host, Kathy Nath.
All this week I've been talking with Greta Clays about the importance of your image during a job interview and at work. Greta, how important is nonverbal communication?
It's extremely important. Remember that the first time a person sees us, we're not speaking. So how we sit in the chair, if we sit very comfortably like this is going to present too relaxed of an image. If we sit like this might have some intention, but it's not appropriate. Don't move things on the desk that belong to the interviewer. Those are his or her territorial things. And remember, sit upright, Don't cross your legs, and if you have a straight skirt, pull it down. It's not a knee show, and we hope that you get the job.
Okay, thanks a lot, Greta. These last 2 weeks have been fun.
Thanks, Kathy.
Have a great weekend.
Excuse me, do you know what stock options are?
I wish I did.
When is the weak dollar good for business? Good? I don't know. The world of finance and investing can be pretty confusing unless you call for this, the Wall Street Journal's video guide to money and markets. It explains the markets in clear, simple English and brings them to life. This exclusive 30-minute video is free when you call for 13 weeks of the Wall Street Journal for just $37, over 20% off the newsstand price. Subscribe to the Journal and get a daily view of the whole world of business and how it affects you. Information you know you should know. Call now, and you'll be ready next time someone asks you, are munis always a safe investment?
I'm not sure.
Call toll-free 800-445-4100 for 13 weeks of the Wall Street Journal and your free video on money and markets. That's 800-445-4100.
There is a revolution happening in the way farmers farm, and most of the major battles are being staged for observation at the University of Tennessee Milan Experiment Station. The Milan No-Till Crop Production Field Day is actually a trial and error demonstration of most of the variables that affect the new farming revolution. Plant population, selection of hybrid seed, various chemical treatments for weeds and insects on a variety of crops, including corn, soybeans, cotton, sunflower, and sorghum, are for comparison. The various populations and row spacings do sometimes require equipment modifications for harvesting.
Most of the time you have to modify a header is what you have to do, and I take just a 4-row 38-inch header and I added another row unit between them. The biggest problem is taking your wide sheet metal and cutting it down to a narrower point here. And it takes somewhere around 5 to 6 hours to do the sheet metal work, and that's the biggest thing right there, is just cutting your sheet metal down. With this header, you can turn and go crossways the field or angling across it. It'll just gather it any direction you want to run.
Also present for comparison from the new equipment manufacturers is the latest in new no-till technology.
Look at these flower pots.
Skeptics and enthusiasts alike show up to see the growing crops and note the amount of residue left when planting, the weed control measures, and the general crop conditions. But later on, the battle score will be determined when harvest is complete. And next year, the revolution in farming will continue here when farmers are once again invited to attend the Milan No-Till Crop Production Field Day. I'm Al Pell, Milan, Tennessee.